made a banjo out of this massive gourd. It's the biggest gourd I've ever used on an instrument, and it sounds really crazy. I really love the way it came out. This is a commission build for the duo Buffalo Kin. I've been following them for a while, so it was pretty cool to have him reach out to me and ask for a banjo, because I was already a fan of his stuff. And he plays super low. He tunes these things super low, and he's got a great voice, a great low voice that goes along really well with it. And I'm just really excited to see what he does with this. So yeah, check out Buffalo Kin. I'll put some links. They've got some great albums out. Check them out on Instagram. I'll put some links in the description. And here's the neck with the side profile marked out. This wood is a piece of cherry that I got. It was up in my grandpa's barn for who knows how many years, and he let me take it when I was back home, and I lugged it out here, and it's got some really nice curly figure to it. The fingerboard is Wenge, which I just bought from the Rockler store before they shut down. There was a Rockler store in Pasadena for a while, but no more. You can see this is how it'll all fit together, but first I've got to cut out the face of it. And before I cut out the face of it, I want to glue up the fingerboard wood so that I can cut it all out together. I used to cut them out separately and then glue them up after they were cut out. But lately I've been trying to glue them up and then cut them out after. This was the first time I did that, and I think I'm going to continue doing that because it's just less work. It's just a more efficient way to do it. And then my favorite part, which is fiberglassing. Obviously, it's not my favorite part. It kind of sucks. But it goes a long way in strengthening up these gourds. Yeah, I got to be a little more careful about breathing this stuff in because, not on this one, but you can see I kind of have a bandana around my face. I don't think that's doing too much here, but the last time I did this, just the other day on a different build, I was like breathing it right in, and I was not feeling good. It was like all in my throat all day. I felt really weird. So I think I'm going to get like some N95s or something a little stronger than just a bandana next time I do this. Whew. I forgot to put the bag on the outside of this and tape it up. So now I'm going to have to spend like 40 minutes when it dries chipping all the stuff off the outside like I usually do. Oops. Oh well. That's by far the most Bondo epoxy I've ever used on one of these. That was soaking it up. So yeah, that was this cut. Now I'm going to do the face cut of it, and for that, my friend Zach is in town and he's got a thermal camera. So we decided to rig it up with the CCD camcorder plus the thermal here for a little, I don't know. Should be cool. Hopefully see the heat, all the heat coming off the blade and stuff. See how dull my blade is, because it'll probably get way hotter than it's supposed to. Just kidding. Yeah, I think I'm going to take more thickness off of here just with the sander. But yeah, it's looking real good. Definitely got to take some thickness off around here. Yeah, it's way too beefy. but...
Let's see how far it is.
And now here's the first shot I ever took on my brand new camera that I got in the middle of this build. So I'll be using this camera for the rest of the build. If anyone's curious, it's the Panasonic SD5 2X. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Great camera, loving it so far. Yeah, it does like 6K, so I'll be shooting on that from now on primarily. I used to be shooting on a Z-Cam E2M4, but that thing was kind of bulky. And then now that I've got the neck all roughed out, I just have to take these rasps and round it all out and shape it. This I forgot to mention is a short scale, so it's a 25-inch scale length. So it's got that huge gourd on it, but it's only a 25-inch scale length instead of a 26 1/4. So you can punch in your scale length on Google. There's a bunch of different websites that'll do this for you. You punch in your scale length, and then it just tells you where all the frets are. So I'm marking out the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 10th, and 12th frets, and I'm going to put a side dot inlay on the side there. And then I'm using this plug cutter to cut out some Wenge plugs, and those are going to be what I make my side dots out of. You can see there's the plug. And then I sort of slowly working up through the bit sizes so I don't do any chip out. I cut my holes. It's definitely the easiest inlay to do. I can't really do inlays except for completely round holes, because I can just... doesn't really take any skill. I just have to drill a hole and cut a plug, and that's it. Yeah, then I file that down, and if it's looking good, I'll keep it. Sometimes I have to redo them, but that one came out real nice. Now I'm using a hole saw to cut the sound hole in this thing, but I wanted a bigger hole. I don't have a hole saw big enough, so I wanted to cut a bigger hole. Yeah, I just sort of made a line and then started filing away with the rasp until I got out to that line, and I touched it up quite a bit after this video. It ended up coming out nice. I always finish these gourds, I sand them up to at least 220. Yeah, then I'll hit them with amber shellac. I always like to use the amber shellac on the gourd because I think it really brings out the color of the gourd and just kind of gives them this nice golden tone. So yeah, I really like using that stuff. I'll put 3 or 4 coats, usually sanding between grits, and it ends up with a really nice smooth finish. I was going to do applewood tuning pegs on this thing, but I made a sort of last minute pivot to ebony, and it's the first time I've used ebony for tuning pegs, and I'm really glad that I did because they're probably the best ones I've made yet. Ebony is a great wood for this because it's so hard. I mean, they're traditionally made out of ebony, like violin pegs. But I was a little intimidated to use the ebony because it's so hard. But I found it pretty easy to work with. So I'm putting that in my peg shaper and getting a nice taper on it. And then once you got the taper on it, I'll bring it over to this belt sander and sort of shape up the knob the way I want it. Then once I got the rough shape, I'll hand sand it and work up through the grits. And then I'm just fitting the pegs into the peg head, reaming a little bit at a time. You want to be careful with the peg reamer. You only want to, once the peg is kind of sat in there, you only want to turn that thing 2 or 3 times at a time. Otherwise, you can always ream out more, but you can't put any back. So you could really... I've messed up a lot of times that way, and there's really nothing you can do about it. And then I'm taking finer and finer grit sandpaper and twisting the shafts of these pegs through it, and that's kind of burnishing the wood a little bit and making it really smooth. And then when I put these in here, they turn like butter. They turn really, really beautifully. while I was doing this, you can see I noticed like some open pores and just some open grain in the fingerboard. So I threw some clear shellac in there just to kind of fill up and plug up those holes. Usually I don't put shellac on the fingerboard, but I didn't want those that open grain exposed like that. I want the fingerboard in the end to be really smooth when you run your finger over it. And the last peg I installed was the 5th string peg. And yeah, this one's always a little weird to install. I put the tape on and I drill as far into the neck as I can with the tape on there so I know when to stop so I don't drill through. But I want to get as far as possible because then when I go to ream it, I need to get the reamer as far in there as possible. I do have 2 reamers. One is a little bit bigger than the other, but I don't like to use that if I can help it. You can see it kind of worked out here with this one. It doesn't always work out this nicely, but this worked out really well and it's turning pretty smoothly. Once I get some peg compound in there, it'll be perfect. So there it is, all done and ready for the first coat of finish. I was really happy with how this neck was looking at this point. One thing I forgot to film a lot of is the client wanted the option to put a pickup in here. So I have a little cheap piezo pickup and I installed that in there. But now it's time to skin this thing up. So this is a big piece of goat skin that I got off of the internet. And in this bucket I have, basically it's a big bucket of coffee. I make a very strong pot of coffee and I dump it in the bucket and then I fill the bucket up with a little more water. It's kind of hard to fit it in the bucket, but I did it eventually. Then you wait about 15-20 minutes and then I fish it out, and when I can feel it kind of stretching in my hands, that's how I know it's ready. And you can see how well it takes up that coffee color. I really like the color of the coffee stain, but I realized that coffee has a lot of tannins in it. I think it's like 4% or something tannins. And I thought this time, I was like, you know, maybe that actually helps this thing firm up a little bit. Because I notice when I don't use the coffee stain versus when I do, the head does kind of have different properties. It's a little harder, like the skin winds up harder when I use the coffee. So I think I'm almost like tanning the hide a little bit in a very small way. So that was interesting, and probably a benefit of using the coffee that I never even thought of until now. This is just the tail piece. Chisel out the edges and cut sort of this bevel into it. And I sort of slowly work it onto here. Once it fits, I will drill some holes and reinforce it on the top and bottom of the hole with these brass rods. I like using the brass rods because I don't mind them showing through on the side because I think they look kind of good. It almost looks like a design feature instead of like there's metal sticking out the side. I like using the brass a lot. I've ended up using these brass rods for a lot of things. They're pretty nice to have around. Round it all out on the belt sander. Throw some finish on there. I believe I'm using Danish oil here. Time for the final finish. I was really impressed with how this curly cherry looked. The curl really popped on it. And yeah, the cherry with the black pegs and the dark Wenge fingerboard, I was really, really loving how this came out. I think it's an aesthetically really nice looking instrument. Combined with the whole tailpiece and the bone nut. And then I'm sharpening up my little plug cutter because I've got to cut the bone pip or the 5th string nut. So there it is, skating across the top of the bone. Oof. But eventually I got it in there. And I just use mineral oil to lubricate and just go really slow, because this thing will start smoking and it smells horrible. Burning bone is a really not a fun smell. And there it is. It's looking a little dirty now, but once I file it down and sand it down and put my little string slot in it, and I'm grinding this nut down a little bit so that the string action's a little lower up at the top of the neck. And here it is, strung up. And I'm finally signing these things. I finally just ordered a cheap wood burner, and I'm signing these things with BG, my initials, Ben Greco, dash, and then whatever number it is, except you can see I'm horrible at wood burning. I really can't do it. I should get a stamp. People have been telling me I should get a brand, but they're like, it's not that cheap to get a custom brand. It's like $100 or something, which isn't terrible, but I'd rather just do this. Then for the bridge, I had this great idea to use one of the offcuts from cutting out the neck. I had this Wenge and cherry glued together, so I was like, oh, that's a perfect bridge. So I marked out a bridge and I cut it out on the bandsaw. I was really happy with this bridge. Wow, yep, love the sound of this thing. It's tuned all the way. This is low, this is E. This is the same low E as a low guitar string. So it's such a deep, wow. Anyway, I'm here at Malibu Creek State Park with this thing, giving it a spin. Just hiked down here. And yeah, I mean, it's a nice day, nice hot day out. What else? What should I play on this? I don't even want to play any songs on this. I just want to mess around on it. See how, I'm not sure if I'm in tune. Oh. I've got the taller bridge on this now. When I have it tuned this low, I find it a little easier to play with the taller bridge and the higher action, but I can still play it down way up the neck. I mean, it's not really like what this is mostly designed for, but it can be done, and it's got good dynamics all the way up. I don't know why I always play that. I think it's what is that, Morgan's March or something like that. I always play that one for some reason. This is all mugwort. It's supposed to be good for poison oak. I've got some poison oak all around my waist. Yeah, I don't know. It smells really good though. You can dry it and make tea out of it. Mugwort. Here it is in the garage now. Studio lighting, studio conditions. My really good mic isn't working, so I've just got these clip-on mics still, but it's still more controlled conditions, and I've got it in a much higher tuning. I've got it in FCFAC, which is just a half step below regular GBD tuning. So this is sort of a more traditional banjo sound out of this thing, rather than the really low, tubby sound. But yeah, this thing sounds great in this tuning, but just playing it, I mean, you can tell it really wants to be in a lower tuning. It's just, I really built it with that in mind, that it's probably going to be played most of the time in a pretty low tuning. So even when I have it in this tuning, I find myself really gravitating towards those strings. But yeah, one thing about this is the little contact pickup in there. So I'm gonna tune it down into a lower tuning again. Normally I would record straight into my audio recorder from the amp, but it's not working for me today, so I'm just gonna put the mic down there by the amp. And yeah, the little contact pickup I have here right under the bridge, I just have it taped on there for now. It does have adhesive, but I want it to be easily removable. So it's just taped on, but yeah, it's really cheap and junky. It was just a few bucks on Amazon, and they come in like a 3-pack, and the whole 3-pack's like $6 or something. So I have that in there for now, and it doesn't sound great clean. It sounds okay clean, but it just doesn't really have much dynamic to it. So I just kick it right into overdrive and just do it crazy distorted, and it's pretty fun. Yeah, that's a whoop. Hey, hi. That's a fly away. You can do some songs. There's some like rock songs and stuff or whatever that work pretty well with just chords on the banjo, like Creep. Another fun one is Neutral Milk Hotel. Yeah, it's really fun to play with this on the distortion, because it just turns into an electric fretless guitar and tuned in open G. So like you can play a lot of Stone stuff, because Keith Richards is always an open G. I mean, I don't. So now here it is in much, much lower tuning. I've got a taller bridge in here too. I just find it kind of plays a little nicer. When it's this low and the strings are so loose, I like a higher action. So I have a pretty, I mean, this bridge is probably a ½ inch or more in height. Yeah, something about the claw hammer, when it's tuned like this, the claw hammer really, like, my finger really digs in and I get this kind of real nice chunky sound out of it. I really like playing claw hammer on this. Like, I can really feel my fingernail just like moving the string out of the way and really digging in. It feels really good. I played high on a mountain in the higher tuning. I'll play it in this tuning, just for a comparison. Really have to wrap this up, but I mean, if you watched this video this long, I might as well plug this thing in and play some heavy distortion stuff in this low tuning. Only take a minute or two here. Down by the amp. Making a lot of noise. down, treble, bass all the way down, treble all the way up. Really doing anything anymore, so I'm gonna call it. Thanks for watching. This was probably a really long video. I'll bet you this was 40 or 50 minutes long, unfortunately.